IKKO OH2 or the IKKO Opal. Yeah, IKKO Opal OH2. This is a brand new IEM from IKKO coming in at $79. And if you guys been in this hobby for a while, you guys know that's dangerous pricing, man. There's a lot of sharks in the water. So yeah, how does this IEM compare to all those legendary under $100 IEMs, and how does this sound in general, and should you get it? Let's find out. Hey friends, Timmy, welcome back to another video on Giz Audio, and today I'm going to be reviewing the IKKO OH2 and also be comparing it to a lot of other IEMs like the Aria, TNT3+, IKKO OH1S, and of course the legendary OH10. Starting off with the sound signature, this thing is a warm-ish neutral. It doesn't have a lot of sub-bass. One can even say the sub-bass just rolls off, like there's barely, if any, sub-bass to be heard. Now that might be good news for some of you who don't really like bass in IEM so much, but bad news for those of you who really love bass. So you can stop watching this video now if you're a bass head, because there's really no point. There's barely any sub-bass here. You're not gonna like it. But if you're a more neutral listener and you don't like too much bass, then these IEMs might be good for you. Now when it comes to mid-bass, they do have a mid-bass presence, but not really focus on, if you know what I mean. The strength is just not quite there. You can feel the hits and slam. They do come across distinct, but they're not powerful. They're not gonna rock you or make you want to bob your head. They're just there. You hear it, and that's about that. The power is just medium. Being that it is a warmer signature, the bass does bleed into the mid-range quite a little bit. Not too much though, enough to give it some warmth, but not enough to make it messy in any way. Just a touch for that extra bit of warm signature. Mid-range overall, the vocals, the instrumentals, besides the little bit of warmth, does sound relatively clean. Upper mid-range wise, it does have decent level of energy, but you can tell it is more relaxing leaning than your typical Aria, IKKO, or Moondrop IEMs, where the vocals in the upper mid-range are at the forefront. These take a more relaxed backseat, really leaning into that warm, relaxing DNA. The upper mid-range has energy, but tamed down. These are a little bit too relaxing for me, but for some of you, it might sound like heaven right now to have a really nice, warm, relaxing IEM. Hey, to each their own taste. Now onto the treble area, I would say these have decent treble extensions. Percussion comes across relatively clean. The one drawback that these have in this area for me is that it's not the most even out treble. There's peaks and you can feel the peaks, you can hear the peaks. Not the smoothest treble out there. I guess to more untrained ears, if you're new to IEMs, you might not pick up those peaks as well as someone who've tried many IEMs. But if you've tried a lot of IEMs before, the treble is gonna stand out for you. Technical performance time, we have resolution, soundstage, and imaging, of course. Let's talk about details and resolution first. Bringing up my scale, we have the pixelated trash can, Blonde 03, and Starfield in the middle, and on the upper end, we have the Timeless and the Anoli VX being the god of all resolving IEMs. Now these land around, I would say, the Blonde 03 to the Starfield, just right in the middle, leaning more towards the Blonde 03. Yes, these are not the most resolving IEMs you can grab, but again, it is $79. Not a lot of IEMs at $79 or even under $100 perform as well as the Starfield. The Starfield is really, really, really good. A benchmark IEM, if you will. So this falling around the Blonde and the Starfield is actually not a bad thing. Next, let's talk about staging. How wide are these IEMs? Now, IKKO, they're known for wide staging. OH10, OH1S both have pretty good wide stage. I really like the staging on both of those IEMs. So how about this one? How does this fare? Sorry to disappoint you, but the stage is pretty, I would say average. It's kind of like a little bit inside your head, if you will, so nothing too impressive. Definitely doesn't live up to the IKKO reputation. But overall, is it average staging? Yeah, sure, why not? It's average staging. It's just a touch disappointing, being that it is from IKKO. Imaging wise, I would say it is average as well. Average imaging, average staging, average resolution equals average technical performance overall. Not a bad thing, but when you're fighting in shark-infested water of under $100, you have to come with more guns than what this can deliver, at least technical wise. So now let's go over some genres that these IEM work well with. For me, any type of relaxing listening session, it really doesn't matter the genre that you're listening to. If you're listening to relaxed type music, jazz music, slow vocals, slow male vocals, slow female vocals, anything of that sort, and you want something that really would not bug you in any way, gives you that sense of low energy, loungy kind of feeling, then this is gonna be an IEM that you could add to your collection. That being said, there are genres that these IEM don't work well with, mainly genres that rely on a lot of bass, EDM, rock, metal, any kind of fun, busy music with a lot of bass and sub bass. These just don't handle those well, being that it doesn't really have a lot of sub bass, and also the technical performance really doesn't play well with busy tracks either. So yeah, more relaxed listen, less fun head bobbing. Comparison time, the first pair I'm comparing this to is the IKKO OH1S. Now this was released sometime last year. I didn't review it because it was just too bright. The signature of these are just unnaturally bright and makes it kind of unlistenable at times. Yes, the technical performance of these are pretty good, but it's just not well tuned. Now the OH2 on the other hand is tuned quite similarly to the OH1S without the overwhelmingly bright treble, making the signature more well balanced. And for me, even though the OH2 is half the price of the OH1S, I can say wholeheartedly that the OH2 is better, like significantly better, just because of the tuning alone. This is way too bright and just doesn't sound that great. The OH2 is actually a good sounding IEM, although lacking a bit in technicalities. The tuning really makes up for a lot of the value that you're getting off of the OH2. So yes, even though it's half the price of the OH1S, the OH2 is a clear winner here. Compared to the OH10, there's really no comparison. I mean, they're completely different IEMs. The OH10 is super fun, bass juggernaut, a lot of sub bass, a lot of mid bass, really wide stage, great levels of technicalities. The OH10 is just better in almost every single way, but it is double or triple the price depending on where you look for the OH10. If I can only buy one and money is no object, of course I pick the OH10. If I had only $100, would I buy the OH2 over the OH10? Not really. I would still save up a little bit more and invest in the OH10. For me, the OH10 is just the king of IKKO. It's hard to beat the king of IKKO. Now we made it to the sharks of the under $100 bracket, the kings. We have the Aria and the Tin T3 Plus. Now these two, I would say, if you have $100, these are your two top consideration. They're fairly similar, with the T3 Plus being a little bit more V-shaped than the Aria, and the Aria being a little bit more resolving than the T3 Plus, not by much, just by a hair. And they're super versatile, meaning that they work with a lot of different genres. I reviewed both of these if you want to hear more details about both of them. But yes, overall, under 100, these are the king. How does the OH2 fare against the kings? In the bass department, the OH2 flat out loses because these two have great bass. When it comes to the mid-range, I would say this is a little bit more fair game because the mid-range on the OH2 is actually pretty good. A little bit warm, but that's by design. When it comes to these two, the mid-range is a little bit more neutral, with the T3 Plus being slightly more V-shaped. So that's really up to you. Do you want a little bit more warm, or do you want uncolored? Neutral. Treble extension. The Aria is number 1, the T3 Plus is number 2, and the OH2, you guys already know I had the biggest problem with the treble, so yes, the treble, these two win. Resolution wise, the Aria and the T3 Plus also out-resolve the OH2, and that goes back to what I was talking about in the resolution department, that with these two being so dominant under $100 resolution wise or technical performance wise in general, it makes a lot of IEMs that comes through being average technically just fall short and fall under the recommendation of these two all the time. And the OH2 unfortunately doesn't live up technical wise to these two as well. So yeah, that's where the OH2 really stands for me. It doesn't really compete with the leading IEMs in the same price bracket, but it is a nice addition to have in your collection. It's not a great first IEM. If you're gonna buy a first IEM in 100, again, it's the Aria Tin T3 Plus, but the OH2 is a great second IEM, I guess. If you want to stay under the $100 budget, you want something different to add to your collection, maybe you want to switch around sound signature, then the OH2 is a good IEM to consider adding to your collection. But beyond that, just get the Aria, get the Tin T3 Plus, you'll be all set.